Welcome back to this week's Black Flame forecast. This week's reading came through differently. Instead of being called to one deck for the entire reading, I was pulled toward 3 separate tarot decks and asked to take one card from each. So I also want to begin doing something with the flame forecast that I haven't consistently done before. Going forward, when I pull the cards, I'm going to tell you what deck each card comes from, whether I'm working with tarot, oracle, or another type of deck, because sometimes the deck itself carries part of the transmission. For this week's reading, the first card was pulled from Edgar Allan Poe Tarot, the second card was from the Ocean Tarot, and our final card is from the Witch Sister Tarot. When I looked at them together, the progression became very clear. What was hidden is revealed, what has run its course is completed, what remains becomes wisdom. With the card from Edgar Allan Poe Tarot, the Moon card is the one that showed up, and it was reversed. We begin in darkness, and considering this is Edgar Allan Poe, apparently we weren't going to gently ease into anything this week. The moon normally carries us into illusion, uncertainty, fear, anxiety, hidden things, and everything that becomes difficult to distinguish when we cannot see it clearly. But this moon came out reversed, and the interpretation within this particular deck says that when the moon appears reversed, your deepest secrets are in danger of being revealed in the light. Something hidden becomes visible. Something concealed becomes harder to conceal. Something you haven't been able to see clearly may finally show itself for exactly what it is. For some of you, yes, this could involve information outside yourself, something somebody hasn't told you, something you discover, something that finally comes into the open. But I don't want to limit this card to somebody else's deception, because sometimes the most profound secrets aren't the ones somebody keeps from us. They are the ones we keep from ourselves. Sometimes we already know. Our body knows. Our intuition knows. Something inside us has been whispering the truth for months or years, but acknowledging that truth would require something from us. It might require a decision. It might require an ending. It might require admitting that something isn't what we hoped it would become. Or it may require admitting something even more frightening. You have outgrown the life you once asked for. The reversed moon doesn't necessarily create the revelation. It illuminates what was already there. And I want you to pay attention to that distinction this week. If something suddenly becomes clear, don't immediately dismiss it because it is uncomfortable. If an old truth resurfaces, listen. If something you have been questioning suddenly makes sense, pay attention. If your intuition has been whispering and suddenly starts screaming, perhaps stop pretending you can't hear the damn thing. Because our second card tells us why the revelation matters. Now for our second card, the World card. The world is completion, harmony, fulfillment, unity, the completion of a journey and movement into the next phase. And its placement directly after the reversed moon is incredibly important. First, something becomes visible, then something can finally be completed. There are cycles we cannot close while we are still confused about what happened. There are relationships we cannot fully release while we are still waiting for them to become something they have already shown us they will not become. There are identities we cannot leave while we still believe we need them. And there are doors we continue standing in because some part of us is waiting for an explanation before we give ourselves permission to walk through them. The world says the journey has reached its completion, not failure, completion. Those are the same thing. Sometimes we treat every ending as evidence that something went wrong. But there are things that are supposed to end because they didn't exactly what they came here to do. A relationship can complete, a career can complete, a belief can complete, an identity can complete, a version of your spiritual path can complete. A dream can even complete, not necessarily because you failed to achieve it, but because the person who dreamed it no longer exists in that same form. And I find it significant that this world comes from the Ocean Tarot. The ocean is movement. There is no permanently fixed water. It moves through tides and currents, rising and receding, constantly becoming something different while remaining itself. And that is exactly what transition asks from us. You are not losing yourself simply because the shape of your world is changing. But then we reach our final card. And that is where I think the reading reveals what actually awaits on the other side. Our final card is from the Witch Sister Tarot, and it is the Ten of Stones. And look at who is waiting for us at the end: the Elder, the Grandmother, the Serpent Keeper, the woman whose face carries evidence that she has lived. She isn't standing at the beginning wondering whether she can survive the journey. She already has. The guidebook describes her as deeply connected to ancestors. She walks with them, speaks with them, and calls upon their aid. Age has not diminished her, it has intensified her power. And around her neck sits the serpent among the stones. The serpent understands something humans often resist. You cannot become without shedding. The serpent doesn't negotiate with the skin it has outgrown. It doesn't drag the dead skin around because it remembers when that skin once fit. It sheds and continues. That is what I see happening across these three cards. The reversed moon reveals the truth. The world closes the cycle. The 10 stones ask, what did it make of you? Because you don't leave this empty-handed. You leave with discernment, experience, strength, boundaries, knowledge, medicine, perhaps even gratitude, not necessarily gratitude for everything that happened, because some things do not need to be romanticized in order to be integrated, but gratitude for who you became while walking through it. The Ten of Stones also speaks of recognizing what we have achieved, and I think some of you need that reminder. You're so focused on where you haven't arrived yet that you haven't turned around and looked at the distance behind you. Look, you survived things you once weren't certain you could survive. You learned things you once begged someone else to teach you. You became capable of holding things that once overwhelmed you. And perhaps most importantly, you possess wisdom today that could only have been earned by living through yesterday. The Black Flame Transmission. There is truth moving toward the surface. Do not fear it simply because it changes what you thought you knew. Some truths arrive to destroy illusion. Some arrive to release us from waiting. And some arrive because a cycle cannot close until we finally see what it actually was. The reversed moon says, see it. The world says, complete it. The Ten of Stones says, carry the wisdom, not the wound. You're not being asked to walk backward into the darkness and repair every version of yourself that ever lived there. You are being asked to recognize that you found your way through. There is an elder version of you being born from everything you survived. She doesn't need every answer. She doesn't need everyone to understand. She doesn't need the past rewritten into something beautiful. She needs the truth, because the truth allows completion, and completion returns your energy to you. So this week, if something is revealed, allow yourself to see it. If something shows you that it has reached its ending, allow yourself to acknowledge it. And if grief comes with that ending, let grief have its place without confusing grief with a command to return. You can mourn something and still know that it is finished. You can love something and still release it. You can honor who you were without remaining her. And you can thank an old world for everything it taught you while refusing to live there another day. The darkness has already begun giving up its secrets. The cycle is already closing. And standing beyond it is not a stranger. It is you. Older, wiser, more discerning, carrying the stones of everything you have lived and the serpent medicine of everything you have shed. The Black Flame asks you this week, what truth am I finally ready to see? What can I now allow to be completed? And who have I become because I lived through it? Until next time, walk with the flame.